we can talk about unconditional love or the energy of love, and love heals everything. And I mean, that's all true. But what it takes to even receive love or to spread love is that you are authentic. And authenticity is the only way to wholeness. Everybody forgets about this, you know? Are you really living your authentic truths? And this doesn't mean to be a Jesus, you know, because a spiritual person can absolutely have emotions. You know, if something is not okay, you get pissed off, you know, you swear, whatever you have to do. If you fuck up, take the heat and that's it. You know, it blows over and life moves on. But if you consciously stay in your heart energy, you also avoid this situation as much as you can, but don't be scared to lose because of spreading the love, your authenticity. Like authenticity comes first before you can even talk about really vibrating in love and spreading and receiving love.
Yes, 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 and more yes. If I know who I really am and what I'm here for on this planet at this time, which doesn't have to be that big of a mission, just be in the present now, attune to the real frequency of love, do your best and let go, right? But that authenticity happens easier when you cultivate courage through your spiritual rituals to honor that heart listening, to go into the unknown, because everything on the other side of making decisions from a sound place, it will be so rewarded. It is so blessed. I am so excited you guys are tuning in for this one. Welcome back to Fire and Soul, the space to deepen your inner awakening. And I have a really beautiful conversation to share with you. And you can already see him. Sigmar Berg is in the house. He is the CEO and founder of Lovetuner, and he's on a mission of healing and love and peace and bliss and all the things that we are really taking a stand for here as listeners and viewers of Fire and Soul. So Sigmar, welcome to the show. I want to read a bit of your bio, if you don't mind, and then we're going to dive right in.
Absolutely. Thank you, Michelle, for having me.
It's such a pleasure to have you, especially in the midst of all your navigating in Malibu in the moment as we record in real time on December 12th, and some fires and all the love and prayers to you and your loved ones and mine too. Sigmar Berg is an Austrian-American entrepreneur, artist, photographer, and fashion designer, also former architect. He's the creator of the Lovetuner, a mindfulness tool that transmits the frequency of the 528 hertz, known as the frequency of love and divine healing. Sigmar has had a successful career in social life that he left behind to experience a spiritual awakening, which led him to his divine mission of love and creating the Lovetuner. And that's exactly what I'm excited to talk to you about, because as I was sharing before I hit record, Sigmar, that this show, we've really grown and shifted quite a bit. And I'm so grateful for the listeners and viewers that continue to tune in, because it was a very different mission 3 years ago. And then we went deep into the rabbit hole. And then we're kind of now finding our way of where do we want to attune our energy, our attention, our vibration? Where are we aligned? Where are we not? And really getting discerning around that through our conscious awareness, which I know is right up your alley. So this is a show that you are deeply welcomed into. It's a breath of fresh air. You're singing our praises, so to speak. But I would love to start with what the Lovetuner is. Then I want to weave into your spiritual awakening, because that is such an important part of a conversation that's happening on this planet right now. And then how that led you to, yes, this beautiful mission, and then to invite all of our listeners and viewers into the magic of this beautiful, I would call it like the love flute that I've had for 3.5 years.
Yeah.
And I have given away to so many friends, bring it as a housewarming, play it at gatherings, bring it on my personal retreats, start my morning at my personal sacred altar. That's how I set the vibration for my day. So to have you here now feels like such a gift.
Yeah, you're gifting basically the gift of love, because the Lovetuner, as you said, is calibrated to 528 hertz, what is understood, the miracle frequency, the love frequency. And it's really basically spreading love on a, on a universal level. And this is the beauty of this instrument. So it's not like only for spiritual advanced people, it's for everyone. It's for being curious, or if you have already your whatever meditation routine, your spiritual hygiene. So it's a great add-on for everything. And it's just so easy to use. I mean, it's a combination of breath work. So you do a conscious breathing break. you arrive in the here and now, and on a spiritual level, you're inviting love in your life. And you basically do this. I can show it here real quick. So yeah, you have it too. So this is like basically the cap. You pull out the tone, and then you put it in your mouth. You do a breathing break, and you do like 6 cycles. Try to exhale on a low audible volume, and then just extend as much as you can, as long as it feels good. And that's the whole process. And we just started a big study in Chile, actually, in Santiago de Chile, where we tested many patients with anxiety and whatnot, and we measured their brain waves with an EEG helmet, and then we measured after about 3 to 4 minutes tuning, and it completely changed everything. So what we will show this in a podcast that we are publishing right now, and you will see it. This is unreal. It's just not it's not an esoteric gimmick. It's really a profound physical reaction. And then obviously we invite the universe, to support us on our plan, and it's basically this divine frequency. And what it does is basically you're opening up your heart to receive. So because what actually holds us back from receiving is always our mind. So these are the biggest limitations we have. And it's like, we always have great excuses. We have a lot of stress or whatever. Our parents haven't been okay. But at the end of the day, all this is really in our head. And if we overcome this and understand that whatever dysfunctionality you have been dealing with, that makes you just stronger, but you need to open your heart. And the Lovetuner helps you to get out of your head into your heart. And with an open heart, you just have different experiences, just higher frequency. And this is what I'm encouraging. So my biggest mission is basically to create communities, but in a way that we understand that all hearts are curious. So we really want to connect. It's not something that humans don't want to connect. And you don't need to get filled up with alcohol to have fun. So you can really do this on the strongest organ we have. And this is our heart. So if we connect on a heart level, we have an amazing time. Our hearts are curious. We want to connect. And what separates us is most of the time our intellect. And if we practice heart coherence, if we understand ourselves first, because this is always the beginning of changing anything on the outside. So there's no change on the outside until you change yourself. And this is just a great indicator for yourself where you stand, because all the answers are literally within you. This is a no-brainer. And I think this is the basic understanding of spirituality. As long as you seek on the outside, you will not awaken. So all the answers are within.
Yeah, beautifully said. There's something that started coming through for me a couple of years ago, and it was the journey inward is the highest calling. And as a recovering AAA type A personality, the go, 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 born and raised in the Tony Robbins rooms, right? Like we know that anxiously driven got me a lot of success and status, and, power is all relative, and so is money, but like I was happy. And but I didn't know what was actually running it, and that fuel and the quality of that consciousness, until I had my own spiritual awakening 3.5 years ago. And so knowing that that's part of a big context here of those who tune in, and recognizing that we are always on the search. Also, of course, we know the answers are within, but these tools that help us attune, realign, right, with our essential true nature, with that divine frequency that is the frequency of nature. And I love how you also said in another show that I listened to, the color of green, the heart chakra, and how there's a reason why when I do the breath break and I begin to slow my exhale down really smoothly and gently, which also soothes my parasympathetic nervous system, and I feel that alignment, and then my heart does open, and it does feel like I'm radiating out. But sometimes the tools are needed, right? And so knowing that so many of us are walking around with this sort of chronic PTSD from so much of what we've awakened to, forget about even the childhood traumas and the dramas and the karma and the whatever else you subscribe to spiritually, the PTSD that I believe so many of us are carrying because of what we know. and yet we still choose to keep our hearts open and dream and create and align with community. We need tools like this. So there's no question in there, except I want to circle back to knowing that context of how vital I think and essential something like the Lovetuner is. I'd love to hear anything that you want to share about your own spiritual awakening that brought you onto this incredible mission.
Yeah, I mean, I talked in quite some shows about the spiritual awakening. So I I never had like a really traumatic experience. I mean, I have all the traumatic experiences that a normal life has, but it was not that I was a whatever in war or something like this, where you have a reset and you need to figure something out or something really traumatic happens to you. But what I always had was a very strong connection to nature. So I grew up in Austria, in Europe. I was a professional swimmer all through my so-called high school years, and so this was this combination of understanding the elements through swimming. I did not consciously know back then, but I was doing breath work all the time. We did ice baths back then, not for the benefits what we are doing it right now, but we did it because it made us swim longer in the cold pool. This was basically what we did. And I think this was the beginning of understanding how our body works as a machine and how we are connected to nature. So I was going into, and I didn't come from I would not say a spiritual family at all, but I was open to it from the beginning on. I understood what religion means, and I understood what the individual means. And over time, I started meditating. And this was, I think, about 7 years before I even was the first time introduced to the 520 hertz frequency. So I was on this path, but like, how real are you? You do all those things. And I mean, back then I moved to California, and yes, everybody was kind of spiritual, but it was like, it, you have been living here. There's always a big fakeness to a lot of stuff. And
words I use are disembodiment.
Disembodiment, yeah. And so when I got on this journey, I did not even talk much about it. So this was something was very dear to my heart. I knew it. I had some relations to some great friends, and then slowly but steady, it really awoke in me. So it was the connection to the ocean. It was nature, and I tell this everyone: if somebody really wants to change something in their life, is literally listen to nature. I mean, Alan Watts said this: if you listen to the sound of water, that is more information and knowledge that he can write in all his books and in all his teachings. And that's really what it is. So I think a core for everyone in spiritual awakening is literally to be connected to nature and to understand nature, because nature has so much stuff. When you get more sensitive, like how energies communicate to us, like you see things, you're just more mindful. That's the whole thing about mindfulness. And then you can receive, and this is the relation between you and the divine. That's all it is. There's nobody in between. There's no middleman. There's no books in between. And I think that's the core thing that happened to me. And especially looking back now, because while you're in the process, you don't even know what's happening to you. And then obviously with the Lovetuner and like discovering the 520 hertz frequency, what I would like to explain to the listeners, not something that I created. 520 hertz is a cosmic frequency. It has been around. It's in every living matter. But it was basically, I got introduced to it, and then it opened a lot of stuff. And when we started with the Lovetuner, I had like limited knowledge about what we're even tapping into and all the knowledge what is behind this frequency. And then when you connect with something like this divine frequency, I mean, it absolutely propels, obviously, your spirituality, because you just understand on a cellular level. It's not the question that you have in your mind anymore. It's literally something, oh, I got it. And sometimes it's not that you read something or whatever. You wake up in the morning and something shifted. And this is what we really need to understand. This is the interconnectedness, because all is one and one is all. And if we understand it, that this connection is always there, and when we tap into it, we get infinite knowledge. We just need to let it happen. And often the restriction, whatever our society, whomever you want to blame for it, does is like that you start questioning. You go like, was this real? Was this really something what I saw? Was this really what I felt? Or was it just like, maybe it was an illusion? So, our intellect always tries to go away from all the unknown and from all the mystics and from all the magic. So we always go back into our comfort zone. And I think this is what it really takes to get out of your comfort zone, to be strong about it, to feel strong about it. And I mean, nobody wants to be fooled by someone, or made fun of because you're getting more sensitive. And this is also when you said earlier that you had very normal career, you've been professional, whatnot. I also think that this kind of spirituality, what I basically like preach with my mission, has nothing to do with like stepping out of society. It's about even performing on a higher level, but just more consciously, And I think this is what we all see, and we work a lot with corporations. And I wrote about this. I wrote a program about spirituality in the corporate world. And we have been working with some big corporations already years ago when we started with Lovetuner, and we integrated a mindfulness program in these companies. And what we recognized is that the team performance got better. People have been less stressed and no burnout. And in most corporations, especially the biggest one we worked with was back in Europe. So they have a different system. So if somebody takes a sabbatical, you can't do anything about it. You cannot even fire someone. So it costs those big corporations a lot of money when a manager from the C management level takes off for a year and then comes back and whatnot. So they integrated it, and this whole burnout thing completely stopped. And this is what I always encourage people. Whatever you do in life, if you do it more mindful, and if you understand how it works, because it's not about, yes, everybody wants to make money, but the greed and all these things where you really think that you are out of the one is all and all is one. Nobody's out of this thing, So we're all into this. And if we want to change communities, if we want to change the world, and then we need to understand this. You cannot exclude people, and slowly but steady, and this is what I always said, we want to touch hearts with the Lovetuner, because this is what really connects us, and one heart at a time. And this is the base of my mission. And it's also the gradual involvement of my own spirituality, from nature. Then came this cosmic frequency, and all makes sense, and then this mission was born, what is just way more than a tool. It's more than a product. It's like literally helping the world and humanity, to unite.
Yeah, well, beautifully said. And there's so many different threads that I could pick up on there, but what came through for me was the mindfulness aspect of even just getting present to taking the breath with the Lovetuner. And then, of course, I can only imagine how you have woven that into not only corporations, but I know you work with kids and schools and a lot of different organizations, and you have incredible stories to share, and perhaps we'll get there. But getting present and getting present, where I noticed it was shifting in me so much, not only with the Lovetuner, but just in my own awakening, was the sensitivities to vibration and to energy. Now, this may sound like old hat to someone like you who's been around this for a while. It's so your mission. But there are a lot of people that are actually just beginning to awaken to, wait, that music makes me feel angry or anxious, or I want to eat or smoke or drink or something, by design, by the way. And so a lot of people are waking up to some of that. It's like, oh, and I've noticed that my favorite sound is stillness. Yeah. And I can't get enough of that. But however, I want to drop in. Sometimes if I'm feeling a little chaotic inside from just the life and stuff of the day, then the Lovetuner can drop me into the frequency where I want to be resonating. And then I can just enjoy the silence and fully connect to whatever I call creator, God, the divine realm. And so that for me feels like such a beautiful portal. But I want to talk about the actual sort of science for those nerds that love to geek out on how this works. You had mentioned water. And I've heard you talk about Emoto's work and how you kind of align that with Lovetuner. And there's kind of a lot of different directions we could go, but wherever you feel most lit up about expanding on about the science of the Lovetuner and how it helps us to heal.
Yeah, so like, I mean, there's two combinations that come together, and this is not even spiritual. So what you basically do is the breathing break, so the breathing, the breath work, and then you have a sound healing. So we don't need to discuss the benefits of breath work and sound healing anymore. And the Love Tuner combines it. So what happened is when you do this breath work, you get right away out of your flight and fight mode.
Yeah.
So you're connecting the parasympathetic from the sympathetic nervous system, and you can make better decisions. So that's what it is. It's the first thing that happens to you. And you have been just talking about Emoto. So when Emoto, and this is actually what I was reading when I saw like, listen, if frequency is so powerful in water, then it needs to work in our bodies because we are like 75% water, blood is 91% water. So when you put frequency on water, you can see what it's doing. And we show this on our homepage on lovetuner.com on the science page. We put water under a microscope. We exposed it only for 30 seconds to the tone of the Lovetuner to 528 hertz. And you could see immediately that the water started to restructure. And it went into a perfect hexagonal crystal shape, like from a mountain spring. So, and this is basically happening in all your body. As soon as you use the Lovetuner, it aligns your water molecules, and this gives you really the physical sensation of relaxation. And so there's no woo-woo to it. This is really what's happening when you use this tool. And then what we also found is when you do it more regular, you increase your lung volume, you get a better immune system, and it helps you in many ways. And I liked what you said at the very beginning. You're setting the tone of the day.
Yeah.
And that's really what it is, because we are vibrant beings. So we react to frequency. And when you wake up in the morning, and I still do it before I even like open really my eyes, I just make one or two tones, and this is setting the frequency. And then, when you start your day later on, you do like a real tuning break, and you do it 6 times or whatever, feels good for you. But that's so important because we are this frequency being. And now people are really understanding, and they said, oh, wow, this doesn't feel good to me. That's a bad frequency. I don't like this sound. So I think a lot of people understanding what it takes. And also I just can very relate to you what you said, the stillness, because after every breath work, after the sound healing from this tool, you stay like 30 seconds in absolute silence. And this is really where the power is. This is where it comes in. And when we understand how simple, we are very complex, but how simple we work, that we just react to frequency, then we need to also identify, okay, this is a good frequency that helps me. It helps me in the morning to get tuned in. It helps me during the day to relieve stress. And before I go to bed, it helps me to sleep better. So these are beneficial things, but we also need to understand what negative frequencies are out there. And we need to get a little bit more conscious. If you fall asleep with your phone next to you, and this is the last thing you do, there's a frequency what is probably not so beneficial, and we know it's not, but this comes really to where people need to also take their own responsibility. Spirituality does not happen because you go like, oh, I don't feel great, let's try this. No, it doesn't work, let's try this. So it's a consistent path. You get on this path, and then you need to stay on it. And it's not related to bad or good experiences in life, because overall, we will always have stuff that throws us off, but nobody can take away your happiness. And true happiness is something very different. Our society replaced happiness with pleasure. So if you don't go out and party like a rock star and whatnot, I mean, it's all cool. There was a decade in where this was on our conscious level, but now we are like 20, 30 years later, and things changed, and when you understand what happiness, general happiness really means, because this is in you, nobody can take this away from you. And then this is just like a recipe for a harmonious life, and don't get distracted by mixing up pleasure with happiness, because the happiness is something that is sustainable, and pleasure comes and goes depending on with whom you hang out or how much money you have and whatnot, but happiness is sustainable, and doing this kind of mindful practice will help you to be a happy person.
Yeah, I love that. And for me, I really resonate with the word joy and joyous. And
Yeah.
and that is I believe our natural state. But I also, like you, do not think that there is any emotion that is bad or wrong. We're here, we're on this planet, it's duality, we're here to experience a lot. But we can actually choose our set point. And I believe our set point is a deep remembrance of wherever we think we might have come from, if it's from like the divine realm. You mentioned something so cool, and I remember thinking, oh, I have to ask him that about that 30 seconds after, because I had mentioned how much I love the stillness, and then you said, listen, after that last exhale, let's say you do the round of six breaths, and you're working with the Lovetuner. I notice, and I don't know what the correct term is. You'll tell me that there's this reverberation that's almost like it's finishing up, it's fine tuning, chakra alignment. Who knows? But I just like, and I want to share something specific. So I brought this to a gathering with one of my best friends since I've known since like grade school. And I hadn't seen her in many years. And it was during the COVID era. And I wanted to get out of LA. And so I drove north to my hometown of like Pismo Beach and California. And I brought that up. And so right before she served dinner, I said it would be okay if sort of I anoint the evening with the Lovetuner. And so it was like, her husband that I know and was at their wedding, 30 years ago, and my sister and their children. And I played the Lovetuner, and we all kept our eyes closed for the breaths. And we just all agreed to stay in silence, even though I didn't say, hey, let's just kind of stay in silence for a while. It was just this agreement that we made between our souls, possibly. And next thing I know, maybe 45 seconds later, we all slowly opened our eyes, and each one of us had just had tears of gratitude, of connection, of unity. We're like, wow, and so I just, knowing that moment was so meaningful for me. I just want to say thank you, A, for bringing this into my life, because it's a tool this simple and how it can impact an otherwise just kind of, celebratory evening with your dear friend from grade school that just dropped us into what we're really doing, what we're really all about. And so, can you speak to that last little bit that feels like the most important part, that we're attuning to what's really real, our real reality?
Exactly. Yeah. And this is what he did. First of all, thank you for sharing this, because this is so beautiful. And it touches everybody's heart. So as soon as you do it, and when you then with your friends or with your family, you just connect so deep on this heart level. This is beyond the blah, blah, blah. You can tell someone 100,000 times how much you love him. But if you really connect on this sound carpet, our hearts feel this. And this is why a lot of people tear up. But this is like literally tears of joy, because it really humbles you so much. And you feel also the reaction of the other heart next to you. And so we had we had a set. Yeah.
Our hearts are talking now.
It does. It's really a communication that we're having,
Yeah.
And when you have this relation with someone on a heart level where you can really build, and this I do this. We did a bunch of in-person seminars in Europe, and we had one exercise where we basically showed people how to connect from heart to heart. And it's not so easy, because it does something, let's connect from heart to heart. This is like literally where people need to get their understanding about their physical body, about their subtle body, and then literally feeling the heart power and literally testing where the other heart starts and where you overlap and all this stuff. So you can really connect on this level. And this is something, it's maybe not for beginners, the first thing, but what I encourage everyone is like literally this tuning together and giving yourself this 30 seconds afterwards and let your subtle body literally sink in. And then you feel it on a physical level and you go, wow, that's what it's really all about. So you get so much answers because it's transported in this frequency. And when you start trusting, where you go like, hey, I'm not overriding this with my intellect, then this is where it becomes really fun. And then you have like way more fulfilling connections. And I just can tell this from my own personal life. As you said earlier, I was a designer, like I've been all around the world and busy and lots of friends. And over time, like, yes, you lose people. But what you do is you build so strong, beautiful connection with the right people. These are in the same vibe with you. And we just had a big Thanksgivings here with friends. And I'm, like, I mean, I do the Lovetuner. For me, it's like everybody should do it or not. I mean, yes, I'm promoting it and I'm happy everybody that joins, but it's not for me like tune. I don't do stuff like this. So, it's available and it's everybody's choices. But we just sat down and was busy. Everybody was talking. And then one person got up and said, hey, tune. And everybody had a Lovetuner. 2 or 3 people got up and said, oh, I have it in my purse or whatever. And then we sit down and I was kind of like, that's actually beautiful. And then we tuned and it really shifted the entire experience of this dinner because of this tuning. And it's not, I mean, if there would be something else where we could all connect in such a short time, I would do it too. But that's the beauty of the Lovetuner because it's so simple. It's not like, we don't have to do a breath work. We don't have to put out sound bowls. It's like literally instantly, and it works. I mean, you said it yourself. You have this tool now since over 3 years. Right when you do it, something is happening.
Instantaneously.
Instantaneously. And when you understand this, then it's just beautiful to connect. And I'm always encouraging people, literally listen to your heart, connect and have this fulfilled conversations and have also these fulfilled relations with people and stuff. And this is like, I published a book and I'm writing a lot about this in there.
What is the name of the book?
It's called One Journey, the Lovetuner book. I can show it here real quick.
Awesome. It's cool. We'll link it in the show notes too.
Yeah. And so in this book, I write a lot about what frequency and vibration and resonance is all about. And it's basically about finding your own vibe. So like going inside and saying who you really are. How do you vibe? What is in resonance with you? What is in dissonance? And when you find this out, then you can make very clear decisions.
Yes.
And then don't be shy to avoid disharmony, to avoid dissonance. And this comes to noises, and this comes also to personal relations. This comes also to businesses. This comes to your career. So literally, first of all, figure out your own vibe and then see what is in resonance with you. And nobody has to stay in dissonance. So either you can adjust something or you need to come up with another plan. So there's nothing like nobody should live in dissonance. It's not necessary.
Man, that is so beautiful that you just brought this up. So you may or may not know this about me. I don't really know titles and labels these days. I used to be called a transformation coach. These days, it's like, I guess, spiritual business mentor. And I was supposed to, in my mind, according to marketing, be promoting and marketing a year-long spiritual business mastermind that I run called Magnetic Creator. So magnetic is like a frequency as well. And it was wildly successful. This year, 24, as we were just wrapping up. But in October, I wasn't in that frequency. In November, I wasn't in the frequency. Come December, I was like, I don't think that's actually what I'm meant to do next year. And then I was aware of the other things that were feeling so much more resonant. However, the women who had already signed up and we hadn't sold it out, I just started one by one reaching out to all of them and saying, what do you think if we do something else instead and we do it this way? Are you in resonance with that? Every single one of them said yes. So I bring all that up because first of all, Magnetic Creator, FYI for anyone listening, it's no longer available. But B is having the courage to honor that heart listening, to go into the unknown, because everything on the other side of making decisions from a sound place it will be so rewarded. It is so blessed. It's the work and the mission that I believe we're supposed to be on if we get out of the mind and drop into the heart. And yes, we will make better decisions and more aligned decisions that I think the universe fully supports. And that's a whole nother level of my understanding of what magnetism really is. And so it blew me away. And that's just one, not blew me away. Actually, I wasn't even surprised at all. And there was no doing anything other than like, this doesn't feel right. Mm-hmm. And I had no reason logically. It's like, it was successful. I made the most money I'd ever made this year. I was touching lives. They were shifting, spiritually evolving. It didn't make logical sense, except how I felt has to be everything in which I drive or is fueling my inspired actions. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. No, absolutely. I think this is one of the most important messages in the podcast because we all have a job, we all do something for our living, but it's really important to check in and not be so paralyzed and go like, that's just how it is. It's not. You can't change things, and you are a perfect example for this. This is like, because your own happiness is always more important because it's always one thing, happiness, health. It's so related, and then if you stay in an unhappy situation or an unfulfilling situation, it's gonna bear on you. And it shuts down everything what makes us so excited as humans, and then you go with the modalities that, whatever, I would call it, even a matrix gives us, like you go out and you drink alcohol because this is just like the best reward system for not achieving nothing. And not that I go like, okay, everybody should have a good time if alcohol is their thing, but at the end of the day, what it literally does, it's our society that created an unhealthy reward system, because there's so much more stuff out there, and that's the most important thing. So find alternatives before you even get sick, before you even have any issues, to literally go back in, tune into yourself, see what is in frequency with you, what is in resonance, and what is not. Try to change it to the best you can. It doesn't have to come overnight, but if you send it out into the universe always delivers. Just make sure that you know what you're asking for, and and it will happen.
And the frequency in which is coming back. That's this phrase that I kept hearing. I call it highest self, angels, guides, God, me. Is discern your discernment. And I'm like, yeah, I got that. And it was like, no, discern your discernment, like triple check, quadruple check. And what that really revealed to me was, tune in, girlfriend, tune all the way in. It's more important now than ever. There's so much trickster stuff going on, even in what we would call my community, the truther community. It's especially pervasive there. So we have to be extra diligent with our rituals, with our practices, with our tools, with our energy. And so then I started just sharing with all my clients and community and friends. It's like, we've got to learn how to navigate all of life, living in this wild, ridiculously cool, fun matrix through resonance. And no shame on if your resonance is partying and drinking and drugging and pilling and all that stuff. Go do it, right? Have at it. But that's not going to be where I'm in resonance. And so we may not spend as much time together, right? And being really okay with that, honoring that in me, because what happens is that it attracts so many other people that, like you said, your friends all around the world. It's like, you may not see them that often or drop in that frequently, but when you do, you drop into a set point of which you've agreed is the true set point. And so it doesn't matter how often you're in touch. That is navigating life through resonance. And I don't know if you want to expand on that. I do want to go one other place with you, but is there anything that you wanted to add there? Because I feel like we're juicy right now.
I know there's one thing what I would like to mention is, because we can talk about unconditional love or the energy of love, and love heals everything. And I mean, that's all true. But what it takes to even receive love or to spread love is that you are authentic. And this is the biggest issue what we have right now. And authenticity is the only way to wholeness. And and you need to really let this sink in, because everybody forgets about this. It's so easy said, like, oh, let's spread the love, but are you really authentic? Are you really living your authentic truths? And this doesn't mean to be a Jesus, because a spiritual person can absolutely have emotions. If something is not okay, you get pissed off, you swear, whatever you have to do. And it was so funny because, like, I was running regular businesses before I started Lovetuner. And whatever you have arguments in business or whatever comes up, I never heard something that somebody was criticizing my person. But since I do Lovetuner, and I had this recently, like about 1 or 2 years ago, we have been working with a lawyer, and he just didn't deliver what was promised, and it went back and forth, and it cost a lot of money, and it didn't work out. And at one point, I just said how I felt authentically. I said, "What the fuck," and it ended in an argument. But the first thing this person said is, "Oh, I did not expect this from you." And you know what I mean? It's just like you get even judgment about being authentic, because that's what it is. It's like, and this is, don't be so shy. Like, we have all this craziness. Everything about our feelings, it became so important. Like, don't hurt my feelings. It's like we became that, like, this class society. Where everything crumbles down right away. And I mean, listen, if you fuck up, take the heat, and that's it. It blows over and life moves on.
Yes.
But if you consciously, like, stay in your heart energy, mm-hmm. you also avoid this situation as much as you can. But don't be scared to lose because of spreading the love, your authenticity. Like, authenticity comes first before you can even talk about really vibrating in love and spreading and receiving love.
Beautifully said. By the way, that reminds me of a study that I came across maybe a year ago. I think it was the Spain Institute on the research of authenticity. Did you come across that?
Oh, yeah. I've seen this too, yeah.
Where they took 25,000 subjects, if I recall correctly, through a whole process and trying to gauge which sort of emotion, if you will, rank the highest of just, the highest frequency. And most of us have been programmed to believe that, like, shame is the lowest and love is the highest. And in fact, authenticity ranked, if I recall correctly, 4,000 times higher than love. So yes, and more yes. Stand on your fucking square is what I would say. And I am a deeply devoted spiritual woman, and I love God, and I love me, and I love life and nature and pretty much everyone. But I also am unafraid based on my spiritual courage, right? It's like, if I know who I really am and what I'm here for on this planet at this time, which doesn't have to be that big of a mission, just be in the present now, attune to the real frequency of love, do your best and let go, right? But that authenticity happens easier when you cultivate courage through your spiritual rituals, which is why something like the Lovetuner, in my opinion, is essential. And by the way, can we just talk about how affordable it is? I'm not an affiliate. I'm not asking to be an affiliate. I just feel like this is a no-brainer. Get it for yourself and get it for those that you love. Now, I want to weave into something else, because I heard you say this on a podcast, and I did not know this about the technology or 528 hertz. And that is that it's vibrating at the color of green, which is or green, by the way. And it's my favorite color, but like the color of the heart chakra. And what is all, I mean, I could guess, but I would rather hear it from you. What does that mean? Why is it important? And what do we need to know about that?
So every frequency also transfers on the light spectrum, and 528 hertz transfers is green on the light spectrum. So when you listen to plants, for example, I mean, there's plant waves and whatever devices out there where you can listen to literally symphonies in plants. So chlorophyll has the frequency of 528 hertz. And this is why it's green. And it's something, when I discovered this, I didn't know it. I mean, I was studying a lot about this frequency, but when I came to this, I understood the whole thing of heart chakra, solar plexus. But when I learned that it's basically green on the color spectrum because it vibrates also in all our plants, this was something where I said, okay, that's really a divine frequency. And it absolutely makes sense. It really makes sense. And I write in my book about it right at the beginning. I write about being out here and walking towards a tree and hugging a tree. And I literally tell people, if I would have seen a book like this 10 years, not 10, but 20 years ago, I would have gone, okay, maybe I read it when I have time. That's too hippie-esque for me. But I really encourage everyone, get so sensitive, get so fine-tuned that you can hug a tree and literally listen to it and listen to the wisdom and understand that this is really all interconnected. The mycelium network underground, there's so much stuff there. And when we understand how to play with this, with those, beautiful what nature created for us, it's just like that's real pleasure, and that creates not only pleasure, it really creates happiness.
That's real pleasure. I love that you just said that. Yeah, listening, learning to listen to the symphony of plants. That is so good. And I don't even know if we have to hug them, although I love hugging them. And I have my home tree and my favorite trail actually in Topanga. She's still my home tree. Avatar is my favorite movie. But anyway, I remember when I was really going through the deepest parts of my own awakening, and it's ongoing, by the way, it's forever and ever. And I was kind of relearning how to drive my car again. There was just 3 days where that just wasn't available to me. But I somehow got down to a little neighborhood park in Woodland Hills, and these huge pine trees that presented to me in that moment, just because of where my focus was on what I was studying, was Archangel Michael and Archangel Metatron. Whether people believe in that or not, I'm not attached to that at all. I'm not even sure what I think. I just know that's how it presented in that moment. These were like 400-foot high pines. And they spoke to me every day for months. And it was so simple. The butterflies and squirrels definitely were assisting in that whole season of my life. But the tree energy medicine is still my favorite energy medicine of all. But like now it just feels so different when I think of that. It was a symphony, and there was a vibrational language that I was attuning to that let me know I'm okay. I will have some sort of drive and ambition again. My business is not going to completely like erode. Like I'm going to make it. Like just surrender, trust, relax, ground, root before you try to rise. Like there was just so much wisdom coming through, and it was every day, and it was consistent, and it was just a really mystical time of my life. So I'm just also remembering that. And this is when we slow down to the speed of wisdom. We slow down to those frequencies. And again, I'll just say, but for those who have the monkey mind and have been a bit unknowingly accustomed to the distracted mind and don't know how to get mindful or present, this is why something like, in my opinion, the Lovetuner can begin to drop you into what will then become a natural frequency through consistency and devotion.
Yeah, and there's also one thing what people don't know, and I never talked about it, but I saw Zach Bush. I don't know if you know him.
Oh yeah.
I think I saw him on a podcast like a couple of weeks ago, and I don't even know if it was a new podcast or it was an older one, but he talks about that even plants in your house recognize their owner from like 2 kilometers away. I mean, he said in kilometers, so for a European, for me, that makes sense. So, but this is like whatever, a little bit more than a mile away. Can you imagine? So it's not a one-way street. It's not like that we get conscious about plants. There's consciousness from the plants towards us, and this is the whole creation. And so when you think in this way, that it's not like, oh, wow, I discovered a tree. No. The tree discovered you already long before.
Wow.
And this is the beauty, and this is the journey. That's the real spiritual journey. When you tap into this and you have the possibility to do this, because there's a lot of people out there go like, oh, it doesn't do anything to me. No, and it will not do anything to you because you're not even able to connect.
That's right.
And it's actually something, because some people say, oh, that makes no sense for me. I will never do this. Yeah, you will never do this, and you will never know, because you will be not in the know. Very simple.
And maybe that's what this life is meant to be. And quite frankly, in real time, if I'm super, super authentic, I'm not sure there has to be another life. I might just be like, peace out. There's some other realms I want to go visit. Speaking to that, that's really cool that you just brought that up because we're recording, obviously, December. This is going to be released, I think, December 17th, if I've got my numbers right, are my dates right. So right before, like, a big holiday here around the world. And I remember getting presents just a few years ago. It was like 4 years ago. I was like, I could never, ever, ever, ever cut down a tree for my pleasure. So I've had a living tree ever since. But recently I walked into a nursery because I was like, ooh, today's a day where some plants want to come home with me. And I got that call. And so it was 4.9 miles away. I know exactly where it is. I know exactly how far it is. 4.9 miles. So I literally and I was like, rainy day. What am I going out on a rainy day on a Saturday? Which I don't even like going anywhere really at all. But like on a rainy day on a Saturday where it's going to be more crowded. And but I was called. And so I'm walking to this nursery and I was like this. I was like, which ones of you want to come home with me today? And I swear we were in a whole conversation. I'm getting the chills as I say it. And so there were three. It was definitely a San Pedro cactus from California, not from Peru, but still, it's just like, oh, and anyway, it was just magical. So thank you for bringing that up because I love Dr. Zach Bush. I had never heard that part. But I will say one thing that he got me present to 3 years ago. He was like, here he is driving down all these highways every day. And we love these trees that are maybe in our front yard or backyard or favorite park. But what about all the trees that are just everywhere? We just pass them by and we never just even acknowledge their presence, their gift. And so now, ever since, I swear, I say thank you to every tree that I know that I'm passing by. And it's changed my life because I feel that interconnection. And there's something to the abundance that I've experienced more so as I've gotten more present to that too. Financial abundance, all kinds of abundances and all types of iterations. So there's something here for sure. Now, as we begin to probably wrap up, I also want to just speak to the ones who are like, sure about this. And I love it because your publicist did send me a couple of questions, which I haven't looked at any of them until just now. But I do love this. And I think it would be I think it would be important for us to bring up. What are some common misconceptions about mindfulness and or sound healing that are out there? And how do you address them in your own gnosis?
So I think, I cannot talk about other people who are doing sound baths or breath work. There's a lot of modalities out there. The only thing what I always encourage people is do not be like a spiritual junkie, like you do this on a Saturday and on Sunday you do ayahuasca and whatnot. I think it really comes down to being aware that this is just not like a toy store. You're playing with your energy. All those modalities, what you do, like on a spiritual level, it's really important that you understand that you're playing with your own system, with your own frequency. And I have people working with us. They can see auras and they can see what people have been doing on their spiritual journey. And some of them are really a mess because it's not a game. This is who we are. This is our core essence. And you want to be really careful whom you let into your system, with whom you play with, and what modality you really are doing. And that's, I think, people should really do their homework. And if something, and also, I think the most important thing is to give yourself time.
Yeah.
Because it takes a long time to be messed up. And you cannot, start a spiritual practice and then hope within a week, within a month, it's over. First of all, when you start a spiritual practice, all the shit comes out first. So first of all, it feels great. Then being into it for a little bit, a lot of things come out because they need to come out of you. And this is what we call the transformation. And when you go through this process, then you come out bigger, better, and stronger at the end. And this is what we want. So give yourself time. Don't jump around. Don't go from one cow ceremony to a full moon ceremony. Do some ayahuasca in between, and whatnot is available. So be really careful what you do, and then be dedicated to it if it works for you.
Beautifully said. It's really cool that you mentioned that because, well, first of all, I saw you in your social media do a whole conversational. What was part of your conversation around especially for those who are single or married and having, sort of partners outside of the marriage, maybe by agreement or not, of who you're letting into your actual physical vessel. And not just for purposes of me, who would be like terrified of shedding in a very real way. And my listeners and viewers know exactly what I'm referring to, but just the psychic field is so active right now. Yeah. And then those ceremonies, cacao, ayas, whatever people are doing, psilocybins, all that stuff will also be up. And I just feel like being very conscious to all those environments is really, really key. I was invited to this thing, to this organization that was like on my bucket list for 5 years. One day, if I've really made it, I'll be invited into this particular spiritual organization of the who's who of the leaders in that realm. And I went, and the frequency, I was like, oh my gosh, I can feel that. And that doesn't resonate whatsoever. There was this one night where they were all at this like sort of bar / club / place to get dinner, where we were supposed to dinner. And I was in there for 10 minutes and my whole body was like, and I was like, no offense. And that took so much courage, because here was my big invite, right? And I was like, I'm going to go ahead and head back to the hotel, And then I actually didn't feel called to join altogether. Yeah. Because it was such a clear indication, no judgment at all on my part, just that no longer resonates for me. But I didn't even know that was what I once was resonating at. But because I don't drink or anything like that, but I was like, oh yeah, that actually years ago wouldn't have even been something I would have noticed. So it's like, maybe I just feel very called to share, wherever anyone is that's tuning in, literally and figuratively, honor how far you've come. Because if you're here listening to this whole conversation, that's a beautiful thing. But now take the inspired action and give yourself that gift of taking that next step to drop you into a portal, maybe known as the Lovetuner or whatever that might mean for you, so that you can create a consistent practice. Like, for example, at my altar, sometimes I don't feel like I want to sit at the altar, but I know it's how important it is. And I know what it gives to me by the end, and what is going to be revealed and needs to be healed or just let go of or prayed, whatever. But the Lovetuner just, it just helps to get me back into the frequency of that which I know I'm going to leave, the experience from. So again, for our listeners and viewers, take that next inspired step that hopefully this conversation has opened in you. And then, Sigmar, is there anything that you wish you would have been asked or that feels needs to be expressed before we wrap? And then the best place for anyone to obviously connect with you and the mission of Lovetuner.
Oh, I think we covered a lot, because, authenticity, we covered love, and we also talked enough about the Lovetuner, how easy it is, because it's literally the key to life, and it's so simple and so easy to use for everyone.
Beautiful, key to life. There was something in that last little bit that I was like, oh, maybe that's part of the title. And Lovetuner is the social handle for all social media.
Yeah, lovetuner.com. And I think on Instagram, it's Lovetuner 528 hertz.
Okay, cool. And we'll definitely link that in the show notes. And then you say you do events?
Yeah, I mean, we haven't done so what we are doing now is we're doing online seminars. Cool. And we're also launching a coaching program early next year. It's called the Lovetuner Coach, and it's basically a program for people who want to be whatever in the corporate world, teaching mindfulness in schools. And even if you're just a mom or whatever, whoever wants to grow on a spiritual level. So it's a really great book. It has all the knowledge about breath work, the spiritual laws, and so on. So it's a very, very deep. It's about, I think, 200 pages plus another 200 pages, just exercises, what you can do. And this will be launched in early 2025, and it's called the Lovetuner Coach.
I can't imagine anything much more important than that in the world. The ambassadors of the heart, the warriors of the heart, the love coaches. That is, in my opinion, the great awakening. That is the real awakening that is actually happening on this planet. And thank you. And I also want to give a shout out to my mom, who may or may not ever listen to this. My mother, Sherry. for giving me my first Lovetuner and always being so on like this is cool, this is the next thing that but she's not a junkie. She's like, you need this. And I was like, I do. So I just thank my mom, and I love my mom so much because that's what made it a yes for me when it was like, I have to talk to him. So I couldn't thank you enough. I've loved this conversation, literally loved this conversation. Thank you
Me
from the bottom
too.
of my heart.
It was great, very joyful. Please.
Yes,
Thank you so much.
you're welcome.